Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberty, freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Oh, good morning on a Monday. Hey, you know what? There are chili contests all over the United States, many right here in Magic Valley. Well, I was reading a story about 3 judges with different opinions on a certain chili called Susan's Screaming Sensation Chili. Here is the report of judge number 1. A mediocre chili with too much reliance on canned peppers. Judge 2. Ho-hum. Tastes as if the chef literally threw in a can of chili peppers at the last moment. I should take note that I am worried about judge number 3. He appears to be in a bit of distress as he is cursing uncontrollably. Here is the report from judge 3. You could put a grenade in my mouth, pull the pin, and I wouldn't feel a thing. I've lost sight in one eye, and the world sounds like it's made of rushing water. My shirt is covered with chili, which slid unnoticed out of my mouth. At least during the autopsy, they'll know what killed me. I've decided to stop breathing. It's too painful. To heck with it. I'm not getting any oxygen anyway. If I need air, I'll just suck it through the 4-inch hole in my stomach. That's his report. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course, I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. I have judged 1 or 2 chili contests in my time, and I can relate to what Judge 3 just went through.
Sometimes what other people think is hot really isn't all that hot, but to some it is.
I can't today, now at my age, take anything that is really going to reach out and grab you.
You've mellowed in your old age?
No, what I mean is, I think as we grow older, certain things bother us, and like eating red hot, fire engine red chili, I can't handle it anymore.
I've honestly never ever been able to handle the super, super hot stuff. Mild to medium and bridging on hot is where I can get. But once you get the hot to like scorpion hot sauce, no way, I can't do it.
Where this guy says, you could put a grenade in my mouth, pull the pin, and I wouldn't feel a thing. And then he says at the bottom, if I need air, I'll just suck it through the 4-inch hole in my stomach. I love that.
Apparently, and the other 2 judges are like, ho-hum, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's so hot.
And I was at a chili contest one time where one of the judges that I was sitting there judging, this has been years and years ago, he actually picked up some salsa, some red hot salsa, and added it to the chili that he was eating.
Oh, see, I can't know. Boy, howdy, talk about blisters in my mouth.
Oh, I don't know how in the world. I mean, he could have, I want to say this halfway polite, and I'm trying to figure out how. If he would have had some kind of an oxygen, where it passes through his system, he'd ended up over in Siberia.
would be jet propelled.
I hope to shout. Who's going to do the pledge? Who's going to do the pledge this morning?
We've got Al on for the pledge, and I got you for the weather.
All right. Thank you very much, Al. Good morning. You're on the air.
Are you sure you're all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Oh, okay. It's just like Botox, is letting all them people go. Restructuring.
Restructuring. That's the good way to put it. Go ahead with our pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Al, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
God bless. Thank you. Hey, it's time for the weather forecast, and the lovely Gina Jameson's going to give us the weather momentarily. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. These are nice people. 678-6945, where your home design needs are aisles apart, not miles apart. And they have a guarantee that they can meet or beat any price on flooring, and they'll give you free in-house consultation to help beautify your home. Really good, folks. Kyle and Whitney Cheney of Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here's the weather.
Well, it looks like partly to mostly cloudy skies today. We do have a slight chance of a stray afternoon thunderstorm. It was raining here at the studio not that long ago. Looking at a high of 83 for today. Going to be slightly breezy. Winds out of the west, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles an hour. And for tonight, some passing clouds. Low right near 57. Currently sitting at 63 degrees. Here's KBAR Studio.
There you go. Gina, thank you for the weather brought to everybody this hour by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. Wow, busy time. Fairs and rodeos are started. Lincoln County Fair's going on all this week. We're going to be telling you about that in just a minute. Hey, don't forget, too, our friends at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. What a job they do. I had some clothes that I took in about 2 weeks ago, and, man, I wasn't so sure that they were even worth taking into the cleaners. They've been kind of rode hard and put up wet, and they did a wonderful job. You know, dry cleaning actually prolongs the life of your garments, so take care of your clothes, save money. Take them into Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Absolutely the best. Oh, and when you mention the best, that also means we have to talk about our friends at SafeLink Internet Services, 677-8000. Please give them a call. I'm telling you what, you've got specials that they've got on right now that you can't afford to pass up. Free router, free installation, free 30-day risk-free trial. It's going to end on July 31st. Pardon me. It's at the end of this month. You better check it out. Their summer special. Prices starting at just $19.95. The best in internet services, SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. You call them today. Really good folks. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. If you're not aware of what's been going on in the news the last couple of days, there's been a lot of things going on. I understand people are busy and they're running all over the country and everything. The Malaysian Jetliner, another plane from Malaysia. And, they lost one in the Indian Ocean, supposedly, and now this one being shot down over the Ukraine. And it looks like the bloody fingerprints on this shooting down this jetliner are going to fall to Putin and Russia. And all over this mess, our illustrious great leader Obama, what does he do? What does he do? Now, you can go ahead and criticize me all you want for my criticizing the president. I've got broad shoulders, I'll take it. But he goes to not one, but two Democratic fundraisers. Now, this situation was very, very serious. This situation involved our arch enemy for decades, Russia, and especially the leader now, Putin. So, our office of the presidency is not in the office of the presidency. He's out going around to fundraisers around the country. And I have a hard time understanding how they could go to fundraisers over a crisis. They went to fundraisers after Benghazi, the night of Benghazi. I mean, where is leadership from the Oval Office? And then to top it off on the weekend, and I sat there and I just shook my head at the television set when Secretary of State John Kerry made the statement on a newscast this weekend that the Obama foreign policy is the best ever. The best ever? Oh, please. May the good Lord please help us. Caller, I'm going to ask your indulgence. Wait just a moment. I'll be right there. It won't take more than 30 seconds, I promise. Don't forget Valley Wine Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. We ran in there the other day. Man, they are busy. And right now with fair time, and Valley Wine has all your 4-H supplies, all your feed needs, all your boots, all your clothing, everything. And you get a percentage off, too, if you're involved in 4-H. You better stop in. They got all the feed for your animals. They got all the health supplies. They've got everything at Valley Wine Home and Ranch. These are really good folks at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. We have an absentee leader. He's not leading at all. He's just carrying out the rules for radicals, Saul Alinsky's agenda. And I over the weekend was able to see the movie America by Denis D'Souza, and people need to get there. We're lucky in Twin Falls to have it, and I think all of the people, believe me, they've got a lot of phone calls that because the movie wasn't scheduled to come. But
all right, now wait a minute, Adrian. I'm going to
it ties in,
Let me ask you a couple questions, Adrian, real quick, because it's important. Number one, and give me short answers on these. The America, the movie. What was the main theme that you took out from that movie?
Well, the main theme is that America is blamed for being racist, for stealing the wealth of the world, and all of these lies that have been perpetrated to make us feel guilty that we need to share the wealth with the world, so to speak. And it refutes all of those things, and it does it. I mean, in the 90 minutes that he does it, I think, a really good job. And you can pick points apart, and he could have hit on some different themes, but he does tie Obama and Hillary to Saul Alinsky. Mm-hmm. And I think that rules for radicals, people have to realize, Saul Alinsky was a communist.
Well, okay, we're getting off track here. Hold on just a second, Adrian. We're getting off track away from the movie. The America, the movie, was put out by Dinesh D'Souza, and I want you a real short comment on this. What was the response from the Obama administration? I happen to know firsthand that they did all they could to try to stop the release of this movie. They've done all they could to go after Dinesh D'Souza on a personal scale and accuse him of various things against the government and against the IRS and everything else. He's been on my program, and we're trying to get him back next week on the show to talk about this movie. But what is the number one thing that you took away from the movie that people need to go see it?
The main thing is that our free enterprise system builds up the wealth that makes this country prosperous. And the socialists are doing every country elsewhere, the way they get wealth is to invade and steal from somebody else.
Okay.
You really get that's the message throughout history. He points out a lot of this. But our free enterprise system is unique in the world, and the rest of the world, he points out, is adopting our free enterprise system to some degree, while they're trying to destroy it in this country.
Okay. Now, another quick question I want to ask you is, and I hope you're not offended by my asking you this question on the air, what rumors have you heard? Because I've got a call into the CSI Refugee Center, and they are supposedly going to call me back after I'm off the air. What rumors have you heard about the possibility of illegal alien children from South America coming in here on behalf of CSI?
Well, CSI, as everybody knows, is a refugee center. And I understand the government is putting out tremendous amount of dollars to those that take in these refugees. And I don't know what that would be. But I've heard, since it's a refugee center, I think we really need to nail down, and we don't want these kids in here. And I know you're going to be right in the middle of the road, and you'll probably have a lot of us joining you to stop the unloading of these sick kids that would bring all kinds of chaos to this community.
And here's the thing, Adrian, and I got a commercial break I got to get in, but I want your short response on this. Number one, I'm a little difficult problem of trying to obtain information from the CSI Refugee Center. I called last week, and then I've called again this morning and left a message, and I basically am going to stay right in the middle of this situation. So the minute I hear anything, I will have it on this program, and hopefully prior to your being on the show on Wednesday.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I'll tell you, folks, we really need to be aware of what they're doing, because the government, as you pointed out, they're busing these kids all over the country, and they're just dumping them. And the governors, nobody knows about it until it's happened. Yeah. And so we need to be heads up. The fact that we have a refugee center here already should throw up a red flag.
All right. Adrian, I got to run. God bless you for all you do. Looking forward to Wednesday. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Let everybody see that movie.
All right. Thank you. Excellent movie, too. Dinesh D'Souza has been on our program in the past. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. That is the magic number to get things done. That's right. Now, we're still having warm weather. I think Gina said that it's going to be up into the 90s and high 80s most of the week. You want to get in the house, you want to get in the office, and you want to stay cool, all right? Whoop, wait a minute. Check your air filter. Yes, sirree, Bob, if your air filter is not working well and it's all dirty and grungy and everything in your air conditioner, you're not going to stay cool. Stop into Ramsey Heating and Electric. Get a brand new air filter today. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. I gotta tell you, folks, yesterday, my wife and I went into Denny's restaurant for brunch. Yeah, the brunch. Well, those pancake poppers, you gotta try those. They're like pancake poppers. They're little round balls, and they come with cream cheese. Oh, they are fantastic. You're going to love them. I had them as an appetizer before my omelet, and I could have just had the whole meal on those pancake poppers. They're good. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland Avenue in Burley. You tell them Zeb said the pancake poppers are hard to say, but they're really good. Absolutely excellent. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And we're going to have our next lunch bunch. We'll be there on the 31st. Don't you miss it at Denny's Restaurant. It is good eating. Absolutely. By the way, our friends also at, we'll take some more calls in a moment, Snyder Surplus. Oh, my goodness sakes, these folks over at Snyder's, Leland and Tammy, the whole crew, I mean, they put so much time and effort into rebuilding a brand new business, new merchandise, friendly service, the same as it's always been, because they're so doggone nice, at 112 South 200 West of Rupert, and they're open 9 in the morning to 5 at night, Monday through Friday, 9 to 1 on Saturdays. Not just a military surplus store anymore. They've got everything at Snyder's Surplus. You stop in and see them today. Okay? All right, now give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to ask you this, and I want you to give me an honest answer on this. I know I'm going to be criticized, but that's okay. As I said a few moments ago to Adrian Arp, sorry, I got a little frog in my throat this morning because of all the smoke. Some of the illegal alien children have been rumored. I'm going to verify this. I want to make sure that you understand it's an alleged rumor that some of these illegal alien children from South America may be coming to Twin Falls through the CSI refugee program. Now, I am trying to get the information. and I'm worried about having them here. I am worried about the net result of these children coming and being associated all over the country with various diseases. And also, there is now bona fide fact that some of these kids, underline that word and put it in parentheses, kids, are dangerous members of the MS-13 gang. Deadly, deadly gang from South America. And if they're under the age of 18, now listen carefully to this, you and I or anyone else cannot force their going back home. We can't do anything about them being here. But my question is to you, and after we do this break at the bottom of the hour, I want you to call me, whether you're liberal, whether you're conservative, whatever, I don't care. Just give me your opinion. Do you want these illegal alien children here in the Magic Valley? Or do you agree, like Marietta, California, and other points of where they've been tried to be shipped to, if you will? They stood in the road and said, no, enough is enough. I believe that enough is enough. And I believe that we should stand in the middle of the road and say no. What are your thoughts? Call me after this hard break, okay? And we'll take and register your votes on this. Do you, if they are coming through the CSI Refugee Center, do you want those illegal alien children here? Okay, let's talk about Barry Equipment and Rental real fast. My goodness, 3 locations serving you all over the Magic Valley, Addison Avenue, West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They got everything. They've been in business over 30 years, and they've got all the large construction equipment, the man lifts, the skid steers, the excavators. They've got everything, all the tillers, mowers, everything, and they got a great shop, too, with full-time certified mechanics that know how to fix things at Barry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and new location, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Stop in and see them today. Real quick, Capital Press Ag Minute. I'll be right back and take your phone calls. Good morning.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
The National Potato Council has officially endorsed the safety and usefulness of genetically modified technology, but unofficially, industry leaders retain concerns about how companies advancing GMO potatoes, such as J.R. Simplot, will segregate their biotech tubers, and how foreign markets will react. The U.S. Potato Board's Administrative Committee is also expected to vote on the same language on GMOs during an upcoming summer meeting July 30th in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Potato Council President Randy Hardy, an Oakley, Idaho grower, said having a common, written position on GMOs adopted by both national potato organizations would enable industry leaders to offer a consistent message to the public. This is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
You know, this is an ample and great opportunity to say thank you to the National Potato Council and especially their president, Randy Hardy, and his lovely wife, Carlene from Oakley. I went up there to speak at their convention, and I want to say that I have never, ever been treated as kind and as nice as they treated us. And I met some really nice people up there, but especially want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Randy Hardy for all they did for my wife and I. It was just absolutely phenomenal, wonderful people. Hey, don't forget also another crop that's grown right here in Magic Valley, sugar beets, and sugar beet growers, your attention. BASF is introducing Preaxor. That's right, the newest form of chemistry for sugar beets to fight disease and potentially increase yield and sugar content for your sugar beets. Preaxor contains headline and a new compound, xenium, that also provides excellent control of powdery mildew. As I said, with the application of BASF's Preaxor, 45 to 60 days prior to harvest, you have the potential of higher yields and more sugar content in your sugar beets. Contact your local ag chemical supplier right now today, or get a hold of my friend BASF's Ron Ellis at 431-6776 or Tim Perry at 844-0682. BASF's Preaxor for your better sugar beets. All right, now give me a call, please. I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you want, or would you accept, or is it absolutely no big deal to you to possibly have the CSI Refugee Center and Program bring in many of these illegal alien children from South America? Basically, we don't know who they are. We don't know anything about their health status. We don't know anything about their backgrounds. We don't know anything. Do you want them here? Or do you think that I'm dead wrong for criticizing this program and saying that we should not let them in the United States? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Is it something that you're concerned about, or just let them in? Regardless. Oh, they're just children. We'll take care of the diseases. Maybe. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Ted. You know, the problem we're going to have is knowing when they're bringing them kids up. They're going to bring them up in the middle of the night and not tell anybody.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that so I can be...
That's how sneaky they are.
Yeah. I can't argue with that.
I'd go down and stand in the middle of the road. If we, I'd drive down there and do that.
Well,
I can't afford it, but I'd do it.
What's your main concern? What's your main worry about these children? Please.
Well, my main concern is of course, we don't want them up here in the first place, but the first thing is their health condition.
Yeah.
The diseases they're bringing.
One of the things that I've said on the program, and I want you to respond to this, and I want others to call also, is that I've had polio, okay? So I know all about polio and its devastating effects. There are many, many scientists that said through a no vaccination program in various parts of the third world, South America, etc., we are being extremely susceptible to see the rise of polio, like it is already in India, come back into this country. And I'm going to tell you, caller, I'm scared to death as to what might happen.
I am too.
All right, sir. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you. Gina, I couldn't hear. Did we have another caller call in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Gina. I appreciate it. World's greatest board operator. I'll be right with you, caller. Don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. Oh, what a bakery they've got over there. Wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, and delicious cinnamon rolls. As a matter of fact, on Thursday, she helps me deliver cinnamon rolls to a lot of our great clients right here on Zeb at the Ranch. What a great place to have breakfast, lunch, or supper at Sophie's Chatterbox on the Square in Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning. This is Shelley, and I thought I'd put my input about your inquiry. I absolutely do not support these people coming in to the CSI refugee. In fact, when I called and left you a message on your cell phone when you were at the Nevada Rodeo, within a day or two, I even called Idaho State Police and the two sheriffs in Twin Falls, and from the prompting of from the Lord in my spirit to tell them, I said, do not let them come into the refugee and even not let them into the Idaho State border. So I have no idea if they respected my wishes or not, but I definitely do not want them even
all right,
Idaho State.
I appreciate your call. I appreciate your call this morning, and I've got you marked down as a no, and I'm going to make room for other callers to call in the time that we have remaining. Thank you so much for your call this morning. And I'm one of these guys, I said on the air, and I mean this very much. I will stand in the road against the buses coming in here to this area if they're going to start transporting these kids into Magic Valley, into Twin Falls, into surrounding cities. I believe, like the people in Murrieta, California, I talked to a man down in Murrieta, and he didn't really want to come on the radio. He was kind of a shy and introverted type person, but he also was one of the people that went out and stood on the roadway. And he told me it's not because he's anti-child. It's not that he's anti-anybody coming into America. It's because of the unknown. And right right now we are just being force-fed anything and everything from the government, and they're paying the bill. They're being the people in Marietta and other parts of the United States, and they can't afford it. They can't afford it. They can't absorb $1,000 per day per child, and that's about what the costs are when they come into a respective community. Now, here's something else to consider, and I'll say this real fast before I take this call. You know, you're going to hear from whether it's the CSI Refugee Center or anywhere else, oh, well, this is grant money. Think where the grant money comes from. The American taxpayer. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I do not want them here for two reasons. One, we have no idea who they are. And two, the diseases that they can bring.
Mm-hmm.
We want more crime in our streets here in this area. I mean, we live in a blessed area where crime is low. I mean, shoot, I know people that still don't even lock their houses when they leave in the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I don't want it anyway. I feel sorry for the kids, I really do, but I am mad at their parents for doing what they're doing, turning their kids over to criminals to send them this way, and who knows they're going to make it, or who's going to be sold into sex slaves or whatever. You have no idea.
There's the point right there. And I still can't fathom, I still can't comprehend, so I need your help, Doug. How can a parent, any kind of a parent, send a 5-year-old or even a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, doesn't make any difference on the age, willy-nilly up 1,500 to 2,000 miles without any adult or family supervision by paying a coyote $700 to send them to the United States? How can anybody do that?
They've got to be either very desperate or they're getting compensation somehow, and they feel the money's more important than the kids. They need the money. You know, I could not do it. There's no way in heck that I could even put my kid out on my own.
And let me throw this at you, Doug, real quick for a response on this part of it. I am still not convinced that these kids, quote unquote, are not all orphans or the majority of orphans that these countries, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, whatever, might be just trying to, quote unquote, get rid of.
Very true. Very, very true. That's a good point.
Well,
I was hearing on the news that Obama knew about this 2 years ago.
It is something that has been discussed, and little by little, like a kind of a chemical seeping underneath the door, that's what's happening. People are finding out more about how much the government, our government, knew about this and really backed this program. I'm very concerned that we're not being told even a 10% part of the story. And I'm very concerned about having these kids here. I'm very concerned about the diseases. I'm very concerned about the lack of responsibility from parents here that have not vaccinated their children.
Very true, very true. And one a little point on that movie, America. I took my wife and dad to it. We went Friday night.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, they tell both sides of the story. They tell what's wrong, what people are saying that's wrong with America, and how we done wrong, and how we hurt these people and stole from these people, you know.
Yeah.
And then they come back and give the counterpoints to it, and it is so eye-opening. They interview people that were in Texas when, you know, it used to be part of Mexico, and then the Mexican War, and they, you know, the United States.
Right.
You know, they joined the United States.
Right.
And they interviewed these people, and this one guy says, no, I do not want to go to Mexico. He says, my father was a cotton picker. We were dead broke. And now my father is very successful because he worked hard. And I'm very successful. My dad put me through law school. Now I'm a lawyer. And
yes.
so it is it's a great story, and they say, no, you do not want
But, Doug, here's the thing that's going on in this world today, and don't go into a long answer on this because I'm out of time. But the problem is today we have a lack of respect for a work ethic to be successful. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree. If the kids today had to work like you and I did when we were 16, 14, 13, they would be crying.
There you go.
I mean, we worked hard.
There you go. And there is a movement worldwide to have people work less and be dependent on the government more. And what happens when you do that? I have not seen the movie, but what happens when you make a global, basically, healthcare case out of all the people to government? What happens?
You get lazy.
No, not only that, but you become subservient to who feeds you.
Exactly. You got other people making your decisions. Okay, well, you don't get that chemo, so goodbye.
There you go. There you go. Doug, always a pleasure to have you on the air. Thank you, sir. God bless.
God bless you.
Thank you. I'll tell you something, folks. What's happening in this country has got to stop. It's got to end. It's got to end with the November elections this fall. We've got to throw out this dirty bathwater, and there's a lot of politicians in that bathwater that need to go down the drain. It's just a start. Rudder Showcase 2611 Overland in Burley. Oh my goodness, this week they're having their annual tent sale. Oh my goodness, they got tents up. Wait a minute, but the tents are inside where the store is cool. They've got 3 tents inside the store with great savings for you. That's right. Check out all the money that you can save on Whirlpool and Maytag and Amana appliances. And my goodness, 12 months same as cash on approved credit. Stop in. Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. Really nice people. All right, give me a call, please. I need your calls because my voice is about ready to pop. Hold on just a second. I gotta clear my throat. I have been fighting this all weekend with the smoke in the air, and I apologize, but my goodness, there's been a lot of smoke, and then the wind and everything, and I've been coughing and hacking, and I'm sure a lot of you are worse off than I am. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Not one single call yet has been in favor of letting these illegal alien children come into the Magic Valley area. As I said, and I'll perpetrate again, there are rumors, alleged rumors, that the CSI refugee program may be inviting some in and or helping bring some in. I have a call into that center, and I'm going to find out more about this. Now, some of the rumors were phoned into me over the weekend, and again, it's an alleged rumor. I'm not saying that it's a done deal, but I absolutely am going to fight against it. And I'm curious as to you, the listener, do you want, if they are bringing some of these kids here, do you want them here? Why or why not? Give me a call. While I'm waiting for your calls, I want to remind you that it's time for the weather, and we're going to have a weather update by Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. Gentlemen and Leslie and the whole crew are working hard to provide great service to all the communities in Magic Valley with energy-efficient windows. That's right, they are the best. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Looks like partly to mostly cloudy skies today. We are expecting some scattered showers, possibly some thunderstorms as we move through the afternoon. Some thunderstorms may produce gusty winds. We're looking at a high of about 84 for today. Winds are going to be out of the west right around 10 miles an hour, but with those gusts, they could bump up to about 20. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, low near 59, and tomorrow looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 90, and you have a phone call.
All right, Gina, thank you. And by the way, quickly, again, our weather brought to you this hour by Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. Yes, sirree, Bob, the very best windows at Burley Glass. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I do not want those children to come into here, and I really do not care for CSI to be allowing 80 refugees a month. One, because I don't like to have to overcrowd the schools and have my children not get the education and attention they should. And 2, I had kids going to CSI, and they tried to get a job, and it really angers me when I go into every store and find someone that is not an American.
Let me ask you a question here, and you and I are both on the same page. You and I agree. But I have had calls and I've had emails from my comments last week by the liberal left that lives here in the Magic Valley, and they have, and please excuse this word, but you'll understand why I'm using it, they have damned me and condemned my attitude against these refugees and possibly these illegal alien children. Why is it that we have to accept everyone, pay for everyone, and care for everyone when we can't take care of ourselves?
I don't know, and good luck trying to get through to CSI, because I finally went and got through clear up to the top, and he says, what do you want us to do? We get paid for it, and if we don't do it, somebody else will, and we have a little bit of control.
But that attitude doesn't cut the cake with me. It's still taxpayer money. It is still funded by the American taxpayer, and it's still possibly, very likely, going to cause problems here in Magic Valley and across the United States with the unknown factor, with the disease, with the problem with the gangs, with the refugee status of these kids, bringing more illegal aliens in at a cost to the community. I mean, there's so many intangibles that are going to be cost ineffective to the American public.
Correct. Why don't we just take and I think the White House is fenced. Why don't we just get tents and put them up and put them there?
Well, you know, I realize that's a jocular remark on your part, but basically what you're saying is 100% the truth. And it was so funny what you just said about hard to get a hold of at the refugee center at CSI. The switchboard, when I talked to them, well, they're moving, and I said, well, can you give me a direct line number? Well, they're moving to another office. Well, I said, can you give me the other number so I can leave a message? Well, they're moving. She kept saying the same thing 37 times.
I know. I've been through it. And at one time I heard they were bringing in 80 a month. That's before these children.
All right. Well, you have been a welcome.
They're trying to make Idaho blue.
Yes, there is that movement. Thank you very much for your call. God bless you. Thank you.
Bye.
I appreciate that lady's call. And what about it? Come on. There was a couple of emails and a couple of calls last week that were downright dirty to me. And from my attitude. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo, my goodness sakes, today they're having a big 4-H and FFA horse show. And then tomorrow on Tuesday, don't forget barrel racing tomorrow night. Wednesday the 23rd, they're going to have a horse pulling match. I'm telling you, they got activities every day. These folks up in Shoshone deserve to have all the credit for a job well done for the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo in Shoshone for 2014. You want to enjoy a great rural fair with all the color and the pageantry of what it's all about in rural America. It's right there at the Lincoln County Fair. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, what we've got there in the White House is a dictator. And our Congress, they won't stop him. They could stop that man and stop this BS.
I agree.
If they would. What's wrong with them? This stuff has got to end, or this country's going down the tube. It's going down fast.
Well, and you're right. You're right, Fred. It's going down fast. But here's the problem, and I want you to give me a short answer on this. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. What do? They won't listen to us. They won't take our calls. Our senators and congressmen have no backbone to stand up to the president, look him in the eye, and say, you are supposed to make sure the laws and the Constitution are followed. You're not doing your job, and they ought to threaten him with impeachment. Nobody's doing the right thing for us.
Well, after we elected them to go back and represent us, they're not doing the job.
I agree.
They're not doing what we sent them back to do, or he wouldn't be in there right now.
I agree. I agree. Fred, I appreciate you. I got your vote down as a no. God bless you, my dear friend. Take care. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. One word in the very beginning is they are illegal, number one, and number two, that is accepting them and I'm not against kids or nothing like that, but with everything like you say, now you start taking care of them, then that's just like having a baby. The cost of the hospital is just a down payment.
There you go.
Who's going to pick up the tab for the other several $100,000 to raise them into maturity?
I agree.
And along with that, and the other key word is the unknown factor of what's going to happen 5-10 years down the line, or even sooner than that.
I agree with you, and thank you.
I mean, we need to bring our people back from Iraq and Afghanistan and put them on our border, secure our borders, and then haul these people back as fast as they come, and pretty soon they'll get the idea.
Absolutely. Sir, that was very well stated.
Losing our young folks, getting wounded and killed over when we leave over there. Look at Iraq. They're coming right back, and they're going to. Those people have been fighting before Christ was born.
That's right.
And they're not going to change. And so we got to get our people back here, back to home, and take care of ourselves first.
There you go. There you go.
We're done for. We accept all this from all these other third world countries. We're going to be worse than a third world country.
Very well said, sir.
They'll get us is by dividing us from within. Before, in the First World War, Second World War, everybody spoke English. Everybody stood together, shoulder to shoulder. Now they're bringing in so many people, you don't speak the same language and everything, and we're letting them mausoleums come in, and they're storage spots for unwanted, for damage to us.
So I've got to jump in here. I got to break away and do a commercial, but everything you said was extremely well articulated. God bless you for your call this morning. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And keep our flag flying.
I will, sir. I promise. Thank you. You know, ladies and gentlemen, think about this. There are those out in the audience that are the liberals, you know, that sit there and go, "Oh, you don't like children. You're a hateful person." No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Don't ever accuse me of something as vile as that. I do a lot to help the community. I do a lot to help our seniors, and I do a lot to help kids. Always have. Always will. But you know what? I look at this country, and I look at Chicago, and we've got 10, 11, and 12-year-old kids killing each other on the streets in Chicago with no home life. I look at New York the same way, Tallahassee, Florida, Los Angeles, California. And we've got a erosion project going on within our borders of the United States that we're not taking care of our kids, we're not taking care of our families, we're not taking care of America. And yet we will open up the doors, thanks to this administration, and bring in the unknown factor of literally thousands and thousands and thousands of illegal alien children with the diseases and the illegals that are to follow as part of their family, and we're giving them more than what we're providing for our own kids that are Americans. That's insane. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the very best of brake service, and I mean the best of brake service. They really do a nice job. And, of course, all the front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and the best in batteries, and all the tires you need for all the driving that you're going to do. I mean, maybe you just go to the grocery store once a week. They've got tires that'll stand up for just that. You want to take a couple of transcontinental trips? Well, by golly, talk to them. They'll put the tires on that are going to do the job. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley, the Schwab Tire Centers. The best. Not one single call thus far has voted in favor of having these kids possibly come in here to Magic Valley. Not one. I have not met anybody over the last week that was in favor of this. Not one. I'm not exaggerating. Some were much more vocal than I am negatively towards this program. And I can't find anybody, whether they're male or female, that's going to stand up and say, oh, yeah, bring them on in. But yet they're there. They're here. And we don't have anybody on the liberal left that has the guts or the backbone, whichever way you want to phrase it, to call into a program like this and give us bona fide reasons as to why we should accept this. Caller, I've only got a minute. Fast. Go, real fast.
Okay, you can talk about it after your break, but your spokesman for the Idaho Dairy Commission has been on the air last week on Channel 7 saying they'd like to take a lot of these younger people and everything. They don't have enough Spanish people to work in the dairies, and the dairy industry can't expand if they don't get more workers.
All right, now, wait a minute, caller, a question.
That's from the Idaho Dairy Commission spokesman last week.
All right, but you said your spokesman, meaning like it was mine, and, sir, I take offense to that, because he's not my spokesman. Nobody's my spokesman.
No, I said the spokesman for the Idaho Dairy Commission, Mr. Olmstead, was his name, and that's who he was representing, and they want.
I've got to run to the news. Thank you, phone companies, for cutting me off again. I love the service. I'll be back in 6. Welcome back. Hour number 2 is up at the ranch, and boy, are we glad to be back on a Monday with, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they include, of course, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always the Georgia shores of Western Waste Services. We care about our community, our resources, and its reason. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, of course, 734-6969. Don't forget to get your portable storage units right there at Western Waste Services today. And they've got all the dumpsters in various sizes, too. Cleaning out the basement or the garage or whatever, you just give them a call. The dumpster will be there, 734-6969. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services. Contact them today. Don't forget on Thursdays, of course, our segment, Gardening for Idiots, named after me, and it's sponsored by Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. All your gardening and landscaping information right there on that segment at 9:12 on Thursdays, sponsored by Vicky's Country Garden. Ladies and gentlemen, as I almost knocked the microphone over, Don't forget our friends, Joel Heward and his staff at Hanson Mortuary. Wonderful, wonderful people serving you at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Flexible hours, they're there when you need them. Absolutely. And they can travel to rural towns and churches to help you with all the arrangements if there's a passing of a loved one. They serve you. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call and write down, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now we're going to go to the phone line, and we have with us a gentleman that's one of my very, very best friends, has been, great author and blog writer extraordinaire. Good morning, Frosty Woldridge. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Happy July, and my gosh, the summer's passing quickly, but boy, is there a lot of things happening out there in the United States of America.
Well, okay, now, Frost, I want to get right to the crux of the matter here this morning, and last week, unfortunately, you were gone, and I really missed our segment, so let's kind of make this a tie-up of last week and this week. It seems like there's a major push right now for many American cities, many American communities to absorb the cost and also the fear factor of having literally thousands of illegal alien children be transported into their community, and it's bankrupting a lot of these communities. And over the last 5 days, there were rumors, alleged rumors, that CSI, the College of Southern Idaho, and their refugee center may be bringing some here into Magic Valley. I have made the statement, Frosty, that I will personally stand in front of the buses and say, no, we're not going to accept them. What are your thoughts about everything that's transpiring with these illegal alien children and the forcing of our government for us to take them and pay for them?
First of all, the American people asked for this by their apathy. When you have a president, the current president, Obama, giving amnesty to hundreds of thousands of illegal alien children last year, hundreds of thousands. I want everyone to understand this, and of course you all know that I write about this, I speak about this, and I was on George Norrie just last week, and I mean my inbox has been filled every day since then, because I talked about everything for 2 hours with you and I talk about each week. American people are starting to wake up that this is an invasion of our homeland. This is an invasion of our schools. It's an invasion of our culture. It's an invasion of our language and our way of life. And in the end, it's not sustainable. By this president forcing all of these children onto our communities, I guarantee you this, we will have tens of thousands more of these children and all of these refugees coming across the borders illegally, and the American people don't like it. And as a matter of fact, during the weekend, there were protests across the country in many, many states and many large cities. But the key here is that we have done nothing previous to this, and if these children are taken into Idaho or any other state, you can bet that there will be more of them coming, and the federal government, again, not doing its job, the President of the United States not doing his job, and we're simply under an invasion. I don't see this thing working out very well for anybody, and as you can see, these children are being bused, they're being trained, they're being airlifted to many different parts of America, and we don't have the money. I mean, we're $18 trillion in debt. So, as again, I said in the past, our apathy is about to kill us once again with this invasion of immigrants, both legal and illegal.
Frosty, I said last hour, and by the way, not one, I want you to be aware of this, not one single call that came in last hour was in favor of bringing these children in here. Not one. But I said last hour, here we have a killing zone in Chicago of 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old kids killing each other. We have killing zones in New York. We have killing zones in Florida, Los Angeles, California. We have lack of parental responsibility. We have just a complete breakdown of the American family and our morals, and we're going to bring in literally thousands and thousands from other countries and add to the diminishment of what we can do and take care of. It's stupid and it's asinine, Frosty.
It's more than stupid and it's more than asinine. I want each listener to understand the end result of this is an importation of cultural poverty. I wrote about it in my book, America on the Brink, the next added 100 million Americans. And again, I hope everyone joins capsweb.org, that's capsweb.org, and numbersusa.org if you want to create a collective voice. Because if you don't create a collective voice, in other words, so many millions of us that say no to this, and you send in those faxes and those phone calls to your reps, we're going to get more of this, Zeb. And that's why I'm so critical about joining those two organizations, and of course FAIR, FAIRUS.org, because if you don't, your community, I don't care who you are or where you are, I don't care how small your community in Idaho or across the United States, you're going to be inundated with not only refugees, illegal alien children refugees, you will continue to absorb the 100,000 legal immigrants coming in every 30 days into our country. As soon as this country wakes up to the end result of that, then you should be terrified out of your minds for your children. And so that's why I'm speaking up. That's why Zeb's speaking up. We are literally the outliers that are bringing you the scenario that we face. And what we face, again, 100 million immigrants from third world countries, third world cultures, third world poverty, third world illiteracy being impregnated into our country, and the kind of fruit that it will bear. You noticed in Chicago last week, the July 4th weekend, 2 weekends ago, 50 shootings, and they have the strongest gun laws in America, which proves one thing: gun laws don't do anything for those who don't care about gun laws. We're going to have more of that because the more illiteracy, and again, I'll say this again, 68% of African American children are brought up by a single mother, virtually all of them on welfare. And these are just baby factories with no parents, no fathers, no guidance, no nothing, and you're going to pay for further crime that's going to really come from all of this.
Okay, now, let's just be really open and honest here. There are those in the audience, and you know this, I don't care whose radio program you're on, mine or Nori's or anybody else's. You know doggone well that the liberal left, they lay out there, they don't have the backbone or the spine to call in and arbitrate with us, but they'll lay out there on their bellies, and then they'll say, oh, you're racist, oh, you're bigoted, oh, you're this and that, because we want to protect America and Americans first. Frosty, right now it's not bigoted and racist. We've got a major problem in this country, and even some of these kids they found out that are under 18 are members of the deadly gang MS-13. Why shouldn't we be cautious?
Well, not only that, and that's exactly true. I've been doing all the research. You know how much I research on this. And the MS-13 gang members, please realize this, that even though they say they're children, a lot of these children, thousands, tens of thousands of them, are over the age of 15. They're 16, they're 17, they're 18. If any of you have seen an MS-13 gang member's tattoo array across his or her body, you have to understand these young men have a totally different way of looking at life than an American citizen does. They are illiterate, they are violent, they are out to make money, they are out to impregnate your community with the drugs that come out of South America, certainly Central America, and out of Mexico. And again, you have to understand, this entire invasion was engineered. I mean, it was engineered. Don't tell me that Barack Obama didn't know that this was coming. Don't tell me that no one knew that there were 50 to 60,000 kids coming up in buses. I mean, the Mexican government is complicit with this invasion of our own country. They're the ones that paid for the buses to throw all these kids on our borders. The best thing we can do, and it was why one House Republican, instead of spending $3.7 billion to absorb these children and all that goes with that, you need to spend $20 million and fly them back. That was right. Fly them back to their country of origin for a total of $20 million. Do not allow your reps to vote for $3.7 billion to absorb these children. Simply fly them back to their country and make a statement that we're not going to take these children into our country, whether they're 6 years old or 18 years old and MS-13 gang members.
You know, Frosty, you don't know right now this morning, you don't know because we're not being told, where these kids are going to be dropped off. You don't know if there's a place in Denver. You don't know if there's some place near Golden. You don't know if it's going to be right here in southern Idaho by me through the CSI refugee program. And I personally, and I know you feel the same way, if I find out that, like in Marietta, California, the buses are coming in here, I'm going to lead the charge to stand in front of the buses and say, no, we're not going to take care of these kids. No, we're not going to subject ourselves to these diseases. No, we're not going to subject communities to not being able to have the finances to ward off these problems. We've got to do something because our worthless elected officials are not doing anything.
Well, you know, and have we heard anything from the two senators from the great state of Idaho? And I haven't heard anything. But, of course, the same thing down here in Denver. Udall and Bennett, I haven't heard a word from them about doing something to stop this invasion of our country. So if you look at your House reps and your House rep, and you look at the two senators from each state, what is their office saying? What have you called their office? Have you made a statement? Have you sent your faxes in from capsweb.org and of course, numbersusa.org? If you read all the information on Numbers USA and Caps Web, you should be terrified at the end result of all of this. This thing is not going to end well for anyone. I mean, 68% of black, African American children being raised by a single mother. Does that not show you that you're going to have chaos of these children in the streets, in the crime, and the doing poorly in school, flunking out of school, and then turning to drugs and crime themselves? We are impregnating our country with violence and with more drugs and with no jobs for all of these individuals, these minorities. And how could they work any jobs if they're illiterate? We got 50 to 60% dropout flunk-out rates in most of the major high schools across the country. So there's no way that this country is going to survive this massive invasion, whether it's legal or illegal. Children or adults, we're simply being invaded and we're simply being inundated with too many people from foreign countries that have nothing to offer our country but crime, illiteracy, cultural poverty, and literally welfare to the end of time.
Frosty, the other point that we need to make here this morning, and I think we need to elaborate on this a little bit, we have a complicit administration, complicit to the point where they are advocating, they are helping, they are aiding and abetting all these illegals to come into this country, and they're actually standing by and allowing the laws of this country to be stepped on and wiped their shoes on. What kind of an administration is going to break the law and trounce on the Constitution? I've never seen anything like this.
Well, I haven't seen anything like this, and I've been aware, and certainly since Dwight D. Eisenhower, I've been a participant in the elective process, and I can tell you this. We have a renegade president right now that is completely obliterating the laws of our nation. Barack Obama is in violation of his oath of office on so many levels right now. I've gotten one where he is impeachable by 12 different articles right now that he has broken the law as president of the United States. And of course, since the Democrats control the Senate, he cannot be impeached. He will not be impeached because it's party line. But it's a very good chance that the Republicans will gain control of the Senate in the next election, and certainly they have the House. it's a good chance that this president could face impeachment. And personally, I think it needs to happen because this president is not serving the American people, whether they are Democrats or libertarians or independents or Republicans. He is not serving our Constitution. That's a fact right now, and he is very impeachable because he has allowed such an invasion of our country that is not, well, first of all, it's just simply against our laws, and he's not carrying them out. He swore on a Bible. He probably should have swore on a Koran, but he swore on a Bible that he was going to uphold the laws of the Constitution, and he is not doing that. And I call him to do that, or he needs to step down, or he needs to be impeached.
Well, the same can be said of Harry Reid in the Senate. How can this man with that soft little milquetoast, fairy-like voice get on television across the United States and say our borders are more secure than ever? How can he say something so frivolously stupid and ignore the wants and needs of the American public? I've never seen anything like Harry Reid.
Well, again, you never saw anything like, Teddy Kennedy. You haven't seen anything like a Charles Schumer or a Barbara Boxer or a Dianne Feinstein or a John McCain. These individuals are so isolated and so old. I think Barbara Boxer, but Dianne Feinstein, I mean, she's in her late 70s. She is so far out of touch with the American people, it's incomprehensible. And so what we have is these people who keep getting elected to office because of no term limits and just a stupid electorate that just keeps putting the same name down, that they are isolated, they are totally insulated, and they're totally out of touch with the American people and what their policies are doing to the average American, middle American, soon to be no longer a middle-class American, but a lower-class American, which we're all literally being degraded to at this point in time because of lack of jobs, because of lack of any high school education, because there's so many languages, because there's so much dumbing down of the curriculum for all of these immigrants who are coming from third world countries. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, how anyone thinks that a Somalian Bush family coming in from Somalia or in from Ethiopia or in from any of the most poverty-stricken countries in the world is going to rise to the top and ace all the exams and make this country better. It's not happening. We're seeing the results of impregnating ourselves with all these third world cultures that are totally and completely unable to function in our society, so they go on welfare, Zeb.
You know, Frosty, I want to take the last couple of minutes and I want to highlight something else, and that's your bike tour again of the United States. Bring us up to speed. Now, is it true that you possibly will be here live in my studio on the 28th? Is that correct?
Well, that's what I'm going to try to do, and I'm going to keep you in touch with that. But I think it's so important that you and I continue to speak up and speak out, because I know there are millions of people listening to Zeb at the Ranch, and I know that they're looking for guidance, and they want information, and they want solid information. I'm going to do everything I can to be there on the 28th, but if I can't, I'm going to do everything I can to be in range with Sandy's cell phone, and we'll continue this discussion every Monday, because I think it's important. And yes, I am going to go across America on a bicycle. I need to get away and just relax and write and be the journalist that I am and be the author of books that I am. And so it's a time for me to collect myself, but it's also a time to meet Americans and get answers from them and ask them questions. And so I'm going to do that because America needs to hear you. They need to hear the people that are you interview on your show, because we are the Americans that are Americans, and we are the ones that are going to regain our country, or we're going to watch it just simply degrade into a third world polyglot nightmare. And at least I'm going to stand up, speak with you, and we will continue the conversation one way or the other, and I'll be calling you this week just to make sure we are on the same page.
All right, real quick, Frosty, I want to ask this. Is there a certain generalized theme or question that you're going to take a survey of people as you cross the United States with your wife on this bicycle tour? Are you going to try to come up with a consensus, kind of a survey?
Well, that's exactly. I'm going to have approximately 5 questions and I will literally have a tape recorder with me, and I'm going to tape these conversations. And with 5 questions, there'll be definite. And then the 6th question will be, what could you add? What do you think? How do you feel about what is happening to America? So I will certainly be gaining all of their input during this, and not to just close the questions, the ones I want. That 6th question, I will have them simply spout off what they're thinking about what's happening to America and what needs to be done. So I'll have that open to them, and that's what a journalist needs to do, have an open-ended question so that there is an expression of the frustration or expression of what they think needs to happen or change, or what they're so angry about that's going on in Washington, D.C.
Godspeed, my friend, and I can't wait to get you back on the program. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. God bless you and have a very, very safe week. Thanks, Frosty.
Thank you, Zeb.
God bless. Thank you. Very interesting man, very dear friend. Thank you very much, Frosty Woolridge. Hey, by the way, don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. And they've got a slogan where your home design needs are aisles apart, not miles apart. And they can meet or beat any price on flooring. You know, these folks really care. They've got all the laminate flooring, the tile. They've got all the Oakley Stone products. They can help you with all your home decor, your cabinets, everything. Kyle and Whitney Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Call them 678-6945. Big fun things are happening up in Shoshone at the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo. Goodness sakes, as I said, this whole week is going to be just chock full of goodies. You talk about rural country fun at a great big rural country county fair. This is going to be fantastic up in Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo in Shoshone. I love the people up there, and I love the way they put on a fair. You're going to have a lot of fun up there. All the way from barrel racing and horse pulling to rodeos to antique tractor pulls. Don't miss a minute of it at your Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo in Shoshone all this week. Really good, folks. In just a few moments, I guess I better get going because Carrie's ready on the line, but we'll be right there with her. I want to remind everybody about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more, plus professional service and knowledge from Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Please remember, give them a call and go over your insurance program with them. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call, 436-4424. And real quick, excuse me for the cough, I want to remind you about Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Woo! The 2015 models are coming in. Dirt bikes, Can-Am, side-by-sides, rebates on some of the 2014 models. You know what? And they've also got generators. And if you're going camping and you need a generator, a power source, they've got all the different generators on sale. All you have to do is stop in. They've got new summer hours open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6 at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. And don't forget, that is where the fun is sold. All right, we're going to get on the phone line right now, and we have the lovely Carrie Kupek on our program this morning. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Doing well.
Well, I apologize for making you wait a few minutes. I'm kind of running behind a little bit this morning, but I just am so interested in this one story. We've got quite a few stories to talk about this morning if we have time, but it's about a cake bakery that the government basically is telling they must sell cakes for a gay marriage, and then after that they have to re-educate their staff for anti-discrimination. My goodness sakes, it sounds like the Gestapo or the government is reaching out and touching everybody. Tell us about this case.
It does, you're right. It's really disturbing because obviously in America we cherish the idea that all Americans should be free to live and work according to their beliefs without the threat of the government coming in and forcing them to be their messenger. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's going on right here. We have Jack Phillips, the owner of Masterpiece Cake Shop out in Colorado. We've talked about this before in your show, but basically we had a same-sex couple that came in, wanted Jack to bake a cake for them, celebrating their same-sex ceremony. Jack politely declined, said he would give them anything else or, sell them anything else in their shop. But because it was a same-sex wedding, that he could not do that because that would violate his faith and his conscience. And unfortunately, the lower court ruled against him. The Colorado Civil Rights Commission ruled against him. And actually, the order that the Civil Rights Commission issued actually did a few things, all very disturbing. First, they required Jack and his staff to create cakes, regardless of their faith and conscience, for same-sex celebrations. And I'd like to point out that same-sex marriage isn't even legal in Colorado, where this is taking place. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it's forcing him, this order, to, quote-unquote, re-educate his staff that this so-called Anti-Discrimination Act means that artists must endorse all views. It also compels him to implement new policies to comply with the Commission's order, and last but not least, requires him to file quarterly compliance reports for 2 years. I mean, if this isn't disturbing, I don't know what is.
Well, Carrie, let's kind of tear this apart a little bit. First of all, number one, I do not believe in the gay lifestyle. I do not believe in gay, lesbian, and transgender lifestyles. I think it's an abomination against the Bible and all the 27 passages in the Bible that call it an abhorrent lifestyle. Now, if I were him, Jack Phillips, and I was told by a Gestapo government that you must accept our way of thinking, you must accept this lifestyle, that's against the Constitution of this great United States, it's against the Bible, and I would stand up and say simply no. That's not America.
Right, and the bottom line is this. What this opens the door for is for the government to come in and force anyone, regardless of their faith, regardless of their conscience, regardless where they even stand on something like homosexuality. This is opening the door for the government to come in and say, you know what, Americans are no longer welcome or able to live and work according to their beliefs. And Americans now must become the government's messenger. And whatever, flavor of the month that is, whatever message it is they want to speak at that point, you must fall in line and speak it. And so Alliance Defending Freedom, we're appealing this order, obviously, and we're appealing it to the Colorado Court of Appeals, and we'll see what happens there. But like I always say with respect to this issue, no one should be forced to live and work against their beliefs. The government should not be able to come in and do this to anyone. And so we're seeing a real shift in this country right now, this attack on conscience, and it's something that all Americans should be very concerned about.
Carrie, let me ask you this, and I'll go back to the old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, okay? What about the reverse on this story? What about if the reverse of this story was that the gays and lesbians had to accept what the Bible says and had to accept what they say against that lifestyle? Would the court look at that and force them into adherence of that philosophy?
Right, and your point is well taken. In America, we don't force artists to create expression that is contrary to their convictions. We can certainly point to other countries, that history, in history books, and even currently that do that, and we know the state of the unions over there. But the reality is, no one should be forced to live and work against their beliefs. Certainly not in the United States. This is why this country was created in the first place. Our founding fathers and the people that came over here were craving a place where they could live and worship and just operate according to who they were and what their conscience told them was the right thing. And that's the whole underpinning of this nation in the first place. So for this shift that we're seeing, against someone like Jack, and it's not just Jack, there are many cases we can talk about, this attack of conscience by the government. We're completely going against the entire reason this country was formed in the first place.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Real fast, caller. I'm short on time this morning. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Recently, the Center for Disease Control said that there was 1.7% of the population was gay or lesbian. That is, at one time they thought it was 2.5. Another point or question is when you see these district circuit court judges turning over these bans in states like Oklahoma or even Idaho or wherever it is on gay marriage, is there any of these judges that have any spine at all, or is it just because there was a precedent set, and that's the reason why they do it? I'll hang up.
All right, Carrie, would you respond to that call, please?
Sure, that's a good question. No, there isn't any precedent. Unfortunately, what we're seeing these single federal judges unilaterally just disregarding the law. I mean, the respect for rule of law is being completely abandoned. I mean, in all of these states with these marriage amendments, you have the majority of the people of the state voting to affirm marriage as a one-man, one-woman union. They're affirming the truth of marriage. I mean, they're doing it the proper way, the way our government has set up to create these kind of amendments. So when a unilateral judge just arbitrarily it disregards and rejects the voting and the voice of the people, we're headed for some serious trouble.
Let's jump to another story real quick before I run out of time this morning, Kara. What about the North Carolina Supreme Court asking the United States Supreme Court to affirm the right to issue Choose Life license plates? My goodness, to me it sounds like they're being very nitpicky over there of not allowing this. What's the status on these license plates?
Sure. I mean, the bottom line is that every child's life deserves to be protected.
Yes.
And that's very consistent, obviously, with the state public policy. A state wants to promote life, wants to protect life, certainly the life of children. And so what we're seeing in North Carolina is that a number of North Carolina residents wanted this specialty plate that said Choose Life. It went through the proper channels to, the ball started rolling for that license plate to be created, and then the ACLU came in and demanded that the government censor that particular plate, despite the fact, I'd like to add, that there are numerous specialty plates that you can get in North Carolina, including but not limited to, animal lovers, sororities, NASCAR, National Wild Turkey Association, and something like Save the Sea Turtle. So Choose Life is something that is completely consistent with the public policy of North Carolina, and so Alliance Defending Freedom is representing the North Carolina House of Representatives and Senate, and we're asking the Supreme Court to take a look at this case, especially because in other states, the courts there have upheld this right to have a Choose Life license plate, and there's all kind of confusion in the various circuits as to how this should really kind of play out. So we're hoping the Supreme Court takes this case and decides that for us.
Carrie, why couldn't an entrepreneur back in North Carolina create a license plate holder, the frame that goes around the license plate where they put verbiage on, and why couldn't they defeat the negative and go ahead with the positive and have the license plate holder with the same verbiage of Choose Life?
Well, sure, they absolutely could do that, but this is something, these specialty license plates are something that are very popular in general, and certainly it's consistent with public policy to protect life. I mean, that's kind of the purpose of the state, to protect the welfare and safety and health of its citizens. And so there's no reason that North Carolina cannot speak a message that says Choose Life. I mean, it's as simple as that. And so it'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court, if they take the case and how they rule on it.
All right, we've almost out of time, but I got it. What's going on in North Carolina? I thought that was in the heart of the Bible Belt. We've also got a University of North Carolina, Wilmington, that's really down on a professor that's a Christian. What's happening over there?
It's true, but we do have some good news on that the 7-year litigation battle that UNCW launched against Professor Mike Adams has finally come to a close. A jury in March found that UNCW had discriminated against him for being conservative, for being a Christian, and really had subjected him to much harassment and unbelievable kinds of things, and denying him promotions and all kinds of stuff, despite the fact that he was, so highly reviewed by his students, won teaching awards, put forth an incredible amount of scholarly work. In fact, I just got to spend some time with Professor Adams last week. Really interesting, brilliant guy. And so the UNCW finally ended its attack against Mike. We settled the case for good last week. They won't be appealing. And it's a great win for academic freedom for all people, because campuses should encourage the free exchange of ideas, not shut them down. And that's the whole purpose of the university in the first place, that students can freely discuss and engage. So Mike really took a stand for the First Amendment freedom of speech and academic freedom, and really, because of him, we have a great precedent now in this country for the rest of colleges and universities to pay attention to.
Real quick, Carrie, is there such a thing as a Bible Belt anymore in America? Is there the real attitude of really standing behind what the Bible says, or has that gone by the wayside like a lot of other things in this country?
You know, I think there are a lot of people in this nation who still believe in marriage, who still believe in life, who still believe in religious freedom and free speech for all. I think sometimes the media would like us to believe differently, but just based on the fact that we had all these marriage amendments enacted where, you know, the majority of people in these states said, yes, marriage is a one-man, one-woman union. And you have consistent pushes just on the grassroots level and in different other areas about life and religious freedom. And so, yes, there are certainly a lot of people in this nation who still believe and uphold these things as good, and they just have to keep on voicing their thoughts and keep on fighting for these things.
Carrie, tell us real quick, of all the cases that are going on right now that Alliance Defending Freedom is involved in, and thank goodness for you coming on our program, tell everybody how they can follow these cases and what you're doing with ADF.
Sure. I'm the Legal Communications Director at Alliance Defending Freedom, so my job is just to communicate what's going on with our cases. And you can check us out at alliancedefendingfreedom.org or at adfmedia.org.
Well, I want to say God's blessings to you. It means so much to have you on our program. You're really what I call a straight shooter and tell it like it is. Thank you, Carrie Kupek with the ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, and we'll very possibly talk to you next Monday.
Sounds good. Thanks, Deb.
Thanks so much. God bless. What a nice lady right there with the Alliance Defending Freedom. We really appreciate all of her information. Holy cow, it's time for the weather. And it's brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls, with our old buddy Reese Widmeyer, the manager. Everything you need for the great outdoors is right there at the great indoors for those who love the great outdoors at Sportsman's Warehouse. They've got the quality gear that gives you the edge to perform well and enjoy the journey. Whether it's hunting, fishing, archery, camping, boating, anything and everything is right there at Sportsman's Warehouse, my favorite store. Right now, here's the lovely Gina with the weather.
Looks like mostly cloudy skies, scattered thunderstorms for today. Some thunderstorms may produce gusty winds, so be careful of that. Looking at a high of 84 for today. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 59.
Oh, she did it again. Wonderful weather forecast. Thank you, Gina. Sportsman's Warehouse, the sponsor of this hour, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. The great indoors for all your outdoor adventure fun. Sportsman's Warehouse. Gina, I know you've been busier than a one-armed paper hanger over there, but do we have Mr. Robert Newey on the phone?
We do. I got him on the phone while I was doing the weather.
Thank you. Good girl. And right now we're going to head on up to Shoshone, one of my favorite towns, and visit with Robert Newey about the Lincoln County Fair and rodeo going on this week. Bob, how you doing today?
I am doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Well, now give us your position, your title, and how much money you make doing all this work. I'm kidding. But anyway, tell us all about the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo. What's going on today?
All right. Today, we're just kind of getting spooled up for the fair itself. We've had a few things happen already. Back on the 12th, we had the Intermountain Truck and Tractor Pullers Association come in for the first time. And with the way that went over, I hope we can make that an annual event. Yesterday was the Ranch Rodeo, the Working Cowboys, or excuse me, Saturday was. Today is mostly just the setup. Tomorrow is when things really start getting going. We start off with the dairy show tomorrow morning, and all the events and the booths will be open by then.
Robert, let me ask you this.
Really interesting and exciting things going on. We do, of course, have the carnival that we normally do. We also have Zombie Acres showing up this year. Have you heard about Zombie Acres?
Zombie Acres? No, I haven't. Maybe you better tell us about it.
All right, they are an Idaho-based company, and what they do is they come in and they set up a huge tent on the fairgrounds, and you get to drive through in a school bus and shoot zombies with a paintball gun.
Oh, wow. Okay, Robert, sounds like a kick in the pants to me.
Walking Dead fantasy come to life.
Yeah.
And they will be at the fair all year, or all week this week.
Okay.
In addition to that, of course, we're going to have our rodeos. On Thursday night will be the junior rodeo.
Right.
And it's not just your normal mutton busting and little kids out there. These kids are going to be stars in the rodeo as they get a little bit older. Then on Friday we have the IMPRA rodeo, and Saturday night as well. Thursday night we'll have the parade. That will be at 6 o'clock, running right through the center of Shoshone.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome everybody out to that.
And, you know, Robert, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you a little bit, Robert, if you can hear me. Let me interrupt you just a little bit because I've got a question for you. I love the atmosphere up at Shoshone. I love the atmosphere of the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo. But how does a small fair and rodeo, in your opinion, compete with the bigger fairs to get the people to come out and enjoy a fantastic rural-type fair?
We are friendlier, and there is no gate admission. The fairgrounds are open. We're not fenced off. There is not an admission fee. Our rodeo, of course, there's a fee for that, $7 for adults. But if you just want to come and watch the 4-H and SFA kids, or walk through the fair booth, go through the merchants building and talk to everybody who set up a booth, it won't cost you anything.
You bet.
We have fair food, in both sense of the word. We have your traditional fair atmosphere. The Shoshone FFA has set up a dunking booth, and they're going to rotate various local officials, teachers, and kids will be sitting on the dunking booth. So if you have somebody that you want to put in the water, there's a good chance they'll be sitting there.
Okay. You know, the thing, Robert, that I like about what you're saying about the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo is that it's real. I mean, it's real cotton candy, stuck to the jeans, dirty T-shirt, had fun at the fair, whatever. It's real. It's not anything phony. It's all about real life here in southern Idaho, and it's a darn good fair, and I'm going to invite everybody up there. How's that?
Sounds good.
Well, listen, Robert, we appreciate you coming on the air, but I want you to mention one other thing quickly before you leave. The fair's not over on Saturday. Actually, it's going to go through Sunday because you're going to have an antique tractor pull. Tell us about that real fast.
Yeah, this will be the first year for the antique tractor pull. And it's been sponsored by local people. We have, of course, the local Horse Pullers Association, or tractor pullers, will be involved with it. And this is, think the tractor pull for your grandpa's age.
There you go. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I've got an old 49 Ferguson sitting out in my backyard, I'll tell you what. Hey, listen, Robert, we wish you the very best up there all week at the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo. Thanks for taking the time to come on our program this morning, okay?
All right, thank you for the time, and we appreciate it.
All right, God bless you, Robert. Thank you so much. Robert Newey up at the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo, and it's going on this week. Absolutely a lot of fun. That's real America at its best. Hey, don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Oh, my goodness sakes, they've got the best of bedroom sets. You know, when you're tired and you've had a long day and you want to get a good night's sleep, they've got the best of mattresses, the best of the entire bedroom sets. You just kind of open the door to the bedroom and go, here I am. I'm going to get some rest. Well, they can help you. And they've got the best of dining room furniture. I mean, so the whole family can sit together and share ideas and talk. My, what an innovative idea. Everybody can sit and eat and talk. Wow, that's American family life the way it should be. All of this and much, much more. All your recliners, everything at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see these great folks today. And all the carpet too, everything at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. Really nice people. Oh, by the way, too, I want to remind everybody, to make sure I got the right one. Okay, I'm going to get Gina on the line for this, because she's the Chef Boyardee of our program, and if I say the wrong pronunciation on some fancy verbiage for the food, she'll correct me. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right, here we go.
Okay, all right.
Now, it is spelled CROQUEMONSIEUR, but it's not Croquis Monsieur.
I have no idea. I don't know what that is.
You admit that you don't know what this is? Okay, so let's you and I both put our feet in the mouth together. It's is it croquet? I bet it's croquet. Croquet Monsieur. Let's try that, okay?
Okay.
It's a French ham and cheese sandwich with a cream sauce and more cheese melted on top with choice of potato, vegetable, super salad for just $8.95. It sounds delicious.
It sounds really, really good.
Now, are you going to stay with me on this and say it's a croquet Monsieur?
I'm actually Googling it, and it looks like, yes, it is croquet Monsieur. And
I like. Wait, whoa! Stop!
Yes.
I got to hear that again. Kind of that. Remember who Yvette Mimieux used to be? That French actress.
Mm-hmm.
She used to always go croquet Monsieur. They'd always go Monsieur. Yeah, yes. And you did that very well, by the way.
Yes. And honestly, and that's the way it is. It's a croquet Monsieur.
Oh, wait a minute! Do it again!
Croquet Monsieur.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
Yes, and it actually means a grilled ham and cheese sandwich.
I guess to Brogan and the rest of the crew over at the Chadwick, 139 West Main, why didn't you just say it, grilled ham?
I know, and the name is based on the verb of to crunch, and the word Monsieur is Mister, so it's to crunch, Mister.
Well, okay, all of this, okay. I'm not going to say any more about that. The Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. And tell us again the name of the sandwich in your own French flavor. Gina, don't go away. She's gone. I wanted her to say it one more time. Croquet
Monsieur.
What was the Pink Panther movies? Remember, who was it, Peter Sellers?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. We ought to see if he can, I know he's dead, but maybe we can put the words together and come up with croquet Monsieur.
I'll have to find something and we'll do that.
You know, you got to almost kind of talk through your nose to get that Monsieur just right, don't you?
Yeah, you got to kind of push it out, push the air out from the back of your throat over your tongue to get so much.
And like if you got a cold, it could be really ugly.
Croquet Monsieur.
Monsieur. Okay, at the Chadwick.
Am I going to have to change my going out song now, or our bumper music, because I had something completely different?
Yeah, am I going to have to lose this ad from the Chadwick?
It sounds like a delicious sandwich, though.
Yeah, it does. And everybody go in there and kind of wrinkle. In order to say it right, you have to kind of wrinkle your nose up in the air.
Yes.
So everybody go in today and...
Hold your pinky out, too.
Oh, yeah, your pinky's got to be... Your pinky on your hand. And you go in and say, croquet Monsieur. Say it really elitist.
Yes.
And almost like you're agitated. Okay. Well, we killed off that one. The Chadwick Sports Grill one. They got a 9-minute commercial over croquet Monsieur. Okay, there. I'm done. Let's see what else have we got coming up. Next hour, it's going to be a fun hour. We've got one of my favorite people coming on the program, and yours too, evidently, because we've had a lot of cards and letters to have Brian Fairchild, ex-CIA operative, on our program. And we're going to be talking about how bad things are getting in this country for the Islamists wanting to implement Sharia law, and also John Kerry's stupid, frivolous remarks saying the Obama administration were the safest we've ever been. Are you kidding me, with the best foreign policy? And Brian's going to talk about that. And then at 10:30, we have Cornell law professor, Mr. Bill Jacobson, and a very, very interesting man talking about what's going on in America today. And he is the publisher of LegalInsurrection.com. Going to be really interesting, so don't go away. I'm anxious to hear what the bumper music is, too. We'll be back in 6. I'll see you then. Oh, here we go. If we don't get cut off again, we got cut off the first hour, cut off the second hour, just going into the news. And good morning. I'm just having such a fun time. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with my favorite folks at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, along with our also great friends, Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, call them 734-6969. Before we get our guest on the program, I want to remind you on Thursdays at 10:12 we have a segment called School Days in Cache County, and it's brought to you by our dear friends at A Child's World, 1308 Overland and Burley. My goodness, if you're going on a road trip, they've got all kinds of activities, games, etc. to keep the kids happy in the back seat, and also all their summer clothes are on sale. You don't want to miss a minute of this. Stop in and see the family store at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And also at 1344 Highland Drive in Burley, it is Ambulatory Surgery Center. There is a way to save medical costs and receive outstanding outpatient surgery in a friendly, caring place, and that's the Ambulatory Surgery Center with life-saving colonoscopies by specialists. Be sure and give them a call, 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cache County. I make no bones about it that when I have a guest that is absolutely popular, I keep going back to the well to get another bucket of water, and in his case, more information. And that's how I feel about Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative and just absolutely one super nice guy. And I'm going to do all I can to assist him and help him in getting a book published, because he's got so much knowledge about what's going on, especially with jihadism and the Islamic fervor in this country in general, and also what our government is or isn't doing to protect us. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Zeb. How are you doing down there?
Well, I'm doing really good, except that every day that goes by, Brian, I get to worrying more about what's happening right here in our own United States of America. Now, earlier last year, I had a gentleman on my program. His name was Martin Moyer. I don't know if you're familiar with his book called Twilight in America, and he was expressly going through this book, telling the reader about all the different jihadist training camps for radical Islam right here in our own country. I don't think that our own country realizes, Brian, how serious this situation is. Bring us up to speed as to what your thoughts are.
Well, it's, boys, you've always got the hot button items. But the situation is a bad situation, and it's bad from a couple of points of view. First of all, I'm not familiar with that particular book or author, but I know what he's referring to. And there are camps around the United States by a group called the Muslims of the Americas, and they have these camps around, which are basically separated from the country, and they call their headquarters Islamburg, and it's up in New York State, and there are different groups like that. But maybe more importantly, I think what your listeners should focus on
is that although it seems far away, the situation in Iraq, Syria right now is very, very serious. And it's serious from a couple of points of view. You probably heard that there's a guy by the name of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi who created the new Islamic Caliphate. He's actually erased the borders between Syria and Iraq, and he's created this Islamic terror state right in the middle of the Middle East. Okay, that's bad enough, Deb. But what the problem is that young Muslim radicals from all over the world are flocking to that area to join the jihad.
Oh, my.
And there have been over 12,000 so far, foreign fighters, who have done that. At least over 100 from the United States. Now, the big fear is that these guys will come back to their home countries and perpetrate attacks back in their home countries. And I think that that's absolutely right. Some of them will come back of their own volition and create their own cells, but others will be directed to come back and to attack their homeland. To make matters even worse, Deb, is that this group that just created the new caliphate was part of Al-Qaeda. But they've had a falling out with, the general headquarters of Al-Qaeda, old Al-Qaeda, or what the president would call core Al-Qaeda. And so now both core Al-Qaeda and these new guys are likely to want to perpetrate spectacular attacks here in the United States in order to establish their primacy. So it's a bad situation all around. And I know you're going to want to get in here for just a second, Beth, but let me just also say, before I go quiet here, that one of the reasons that we have a problem with this ideology spreading so quickly here in the United States is that the president has actually banned the national security agencies from studying it. So there's a situation sort of in a nutshell.
Okay, now, I'm sitting here with absolutely a Pandora's box of questions. I don't even know where to start. Why, starting with your last statement first, Brian, why would this president, why would this administration be either so naive, stupid, or whatever as to stop going in and doing a complete study of this so that they can protect us here in America? Why would it stop it?
Well, it seems that back in 2010, the president had directed a study called the Presidential Study Directive. It was Presidential Study Directive 11 that created a study to study the Muslim Brotherhood organizations in the Middle East, but throughout the world, and basically come up with policy decisions that the administration decided, and this is a secret plan. We know this now because through Freedom of Information Act requests, State Department, the U.S. Department of State has provided this information, and now journalists and people like myself are writing about it. But he created a secret policy to basically support the Muslim Brotherhood over our traditional allies in the Middle East. And the first one to go, and the first one we really threw under the bus, was Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. So at the time that the Muslim Brotherhood organization, the American Muslim Brotherhood, has a lock. Really, it has a lock on most of the major national Muslim organizations in this country. And so when he created his secret policy to deal with the Muslim Brotherhood, to bring peace and security throughout the Middle East at the expense of our old traditional allies, well, at the same time, he stopped any criticism or any discussion of Islam and Islamist terrorism among all national security organizations. And his current director of CIA, John Brennan, was in on that whole plan, and that's how that worked out.
Wow. I mean, I'm just sitting here in awe. I'm dumbstruck as to why we're so absolutely adherent to helping the enemy. Let me ask you this. When you talk about Syria, with the use of chemical weapons with Assad against his own people, and you talk about the Iraqi war from years gone by in the Bush administration with the warning of weapons of mass destruction, and you're talking about a complete volatile situation in the Middle East, what about chemical weapons? What about nuclear weapons? What about now a new Islamic State? We're really on the precipice of maybe seeing world destruction, are we not?
Well, yeah, I don't know about world destruction, but certainly the Middle East is in nothing but chaos. I mean, if you just start from north to south, you've got, the Syrian civil war, which originally attracted all of these foreign fighters, over 10,000, over 12,000 foreign fighters. Then you've got the battle between old Al-Qaeda and this new group. Then you've got the fact that the old Sykes-Picot, the boundaries that were drawn in the Middle East were drawn after World War I, and it was a sort of a secret plan between Britain and France, and they actually drew the map of the Middle East. They were called Sykes-Picot. Well, they've erased, this new group has erased those boundaries, so they're redrawing the map of the Middle East. You've got Iran, which of course is no friend of ours, our arch enemy in the area, and they've got a finger in everything. They've got a finger in the Syrian civil war on the other side. Mm-hmm. They've got a finger in Iraq right now because the al-Maliki government is a Shia government, and Iran is the seat of power for all Shia Muslims. Now, Iran is also doing things to support this new Sunni crazy group because it's in their interest, because it ties the United States down. And we're not focused on their nuclear, the Iranian nuclear program or Iranian support, for Assad and all of this. Then you've got Gaza and Israel, right now having a confrontation. And of course, to the Islamists around the world, the new caliphate and the Israeli incursion into Gaza just makes them go bonkers. The new caliphate just gets them all excited and wants them to run to the Middle East to join. And the Jews incurring into Palestinian territory, of course the Jews are their traditional hated ally, that inflames them. So you put all this together and then you add the nuclear aspect to it. And here's the problem with that this new crazy group in the middle of Iraq, the Islamic State they call themselves now, they went to a university in Mosul and found and absconded with 88 pounds of uranium.
Oh, boy.
Now, that can't make a nuclear weapon, but it can make what's called a dirty bomb. And a dirty bomb, Zeb, isn't really a weapon of mass destruction. It's a weapon of mass disruption.
Right.
For instance, if you take a bunch of explosives, regular explosives, and you put radioactive material in that, and you explode that bomb on Wall Street, if the radioactive material is high grade enough, you can create a situation where to go back to work in Wall Street will, have increased your chances of getting cancer by, say, 15 to 18%. I'm just bringing that percentage off the top of my head. It all depends on how high grade the radioactivity is. But you can imagine the disruption of world finance if these guys were successful in blowing up a dirty bomb in Wall Street or the New York Stock Exchange or something like that, and people would not go back to work there because they would say, hey, look, wait, I already got problems with my prostate. I'm not going back and taking another 25% chance that I'm going to get some other kind of cancer. Wow. So all of that, see, is intertwined in what's going on in Syria and Iraq right now, and the administration doesn't seem very focused on that.
I sit and I listen to you, and you're so educated on what's going on over in that region of the world and how it basically has like cancerous fingers to go everywhere around the world and affect everybody and everybody's economy. But what about this administration? What about this administration or the next administration? What can they do to stop or stifle what's being done in the Middle East? What are the avenues of approach?
Well, that's a perfect question to ask because that's what presidents and national security apparatus are for. Right? A president is the commander-in-chief. And the president, it's got to be the president's vision of how he sees the United States in the world that drives the foreign policy of the United States. Now, up until this administration, our look has been outward. We've been a leader in the world. We've wanted to be a leader in the world. And we've taken the foreign policy actions to maintain that leadership. And oftentimes, foreign policy actions has nothing to do with war or military. It has to do with diplomacy. It has to do with economics. It really has to do, Zeb, with influence. How do you establish as much influence as possible in the interests of the national government, the United States government, and its people? How do you do that? And then that's the plan you come up with. Now, when you have a major situation like we have today in the Middle East, like maybe you could compare that to the Marshall Program back after World War II, there's so much going on that you have to come up with what's called a grand strategy. And the grand strategy gets all the best minds in the country and in the government, and you sit down and you say, here are the problems here, and here are the problems here, and here's how they all intertwine, and by golly, we got to come up with a policy that will take care of these problems while forwarding American interests. That's what hasn't been done in this administration. In fact, this administration has turned around and run away from those responsibilities simply because I think the president really isn't interested in foreign policy. He's interested in establishing his domestic agenda, and foreign policy is a distraction for him there. So, there are things that can be done. There are things that hopefully the next administration will do. But right now, we're in a world of hurt as far as influence and leadership around the world.
Brian, I was reading very carefully your latest edition on your blog, and there was one part that really scared me in regards to Islam and radical Islam, whatever you want to call it, Sharia law, the whole thing all encompassed into this statement, demanding that man be ruled by Sharia law alone, because all man-made laws, political ideologies, and government systems are an affront to God. So in other words, they believe that Sharia law should be absolute in dominance, absolute in control. How effective are they in pushing their point across as we even see it coming into the United States of America?
Yeah, well, that's the one aspect that the United States government certainly, and almost all Western governments, have not dealt with. It's like the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It's so obvious that it's a problem, but nobody admits to it. Nobody admits to the fact that, at least from the bad guys' point of view, they're fighting a holy war. Now, let me say something about this. I've served in the Middle East. I've lived in 3 Muslim countries. I've been the only guy within the room or the area with a bunch of Muslim guys. And all Muslims aren't like this, Deb. I mean, I'm an objective intelligence officer. I'm going to tell you the way it is. There are like 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, and maybe 133 million of them are these crazy guys. They belong to a Salafi. They have a Salafi religious orientation. Now, the Salafis believe this. They say that the only time that Islam was ever great was the golden age of Islam was the time of the Prophet Muhammad and the 3 generations after him. And they refer to those guys as as-Salaf as-Sali in Arabic. As-Salaf as-Sali, the pious predecessors. And so they commemorate them, the pious predecessors, by calling themselves Salafis, out of As-Salaf as-Sali. Mm-hmm. So they say, okay, we're Salafis because we hearken back to the 7th century, and the only sources in Islam at that point in time that anybody could go by was the Word of God as put into the Quran and the life and revelations of the Prophet Muhammad. And so that's what these guys do, is they focus back to the 7th century and they say, we have to have a very strict literal adherence to only those 2 things, the words in the Quran and the words and life experiences of the Prophet. And that's who these guys are in Iraq. That's who all Al-Qaeda is. Every single Islamist terrorist in the world today is a Salafi jihadist. And we in the West have not come to grips with the fact that this is a religious movement. And we don't want to offend anybody, and we don't want to say, all Muslims are bad, and that's true. All Muslims are not bad. But these particular Muslims have an ideology that says that all lordship goes to God. And in Islam, there's no separation between church and state. So, God is sovereign in everything. And so you can't have a democracy or a system of democracy or communism or socialism or anything else, because if you do that, you are competing with God.
Right.
God just gave you the best laws in that anybody can give you. Who are you to go against those laws? And that's how they believe. So they believe that any man-made government system is an affront to God, and that man has to be ruled by God's law, Sharia law, and that's why they're so intransigent and so radical, that they, kill other Muslims and kill anybody that gets in their way that doesn't believe the same thing.
All right, now we have a caller with a question, and I've got 2 minutes left, caller. Real fast with your question, if you would, please.
Okay, does your guest feel that Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, and ISIS will jump into the fray against Israel, and will Israel have enough arms and firepower to continue their war?
That's a good question. Brian, what about Israel?
Great question, and the fast answer to that is yes, but not right away. This new group in Iraq, the Islamic State, was asked that very question by other Muslims, by other Salafi jihadis. Hey, how come you're not down there helping Israel? Well, there's evidence that some of them are down there, but this is what they said. And it's very smart, and from a strategic point of view, they've got their own situation figured out. They say, we'll go down there and we'll help the Palestinians against the Jews, but only once we've consolidated our position, we've established our rule into Jordan and Lebanon and consolidated that position, and we've attacked the United States and weakened their political and economic situation there. Then we'll go down and help the Gazans and the Palestinians take care of the Jews. So there's a quick answer to that question.
Brian, again, I can't emphasize how important you are to the education of my guests here on this program, and I wanted to get into the purging of Christianity from these radical Islamists, but I'm just flat out of time. And again, I'm going to impose on you to come back on the program in the very near future, and we'll get into that aspect of it. But God bless you, and I wish you the very best, and thank you for taking your time to come on our program. Thank you very, very much.
It's always my pleasure, Deb, and anytime you just let me know and I'll be there for you, brother.
I appreciate it. Brian Fairchild, just absolutely one of the most interesting people I've ever had on this program. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a break in a few minutes on our program at the bottom of the hour, but before we do, I want to remind you about Harris Plumbing NG. For all your plumbing service needs, one call takes care of it all. 431-8633. That number again, 431-8633. Excellent service. How do I know? Because they're our plumber, and the service has been impeccable, reliable, responsible, professional. The job is done right, efficiently, and respectfully. I am impressed. Harris Plumbing NG, 431-8633. One call does it all. Hey, by the way, a message for our sugar beet growers in the audience. Don't forget, I'd like your attention. Introducing Preaxor from BASF, the newest form of chemistry for sugar beets to fight disease and potentially increase yield and sugar content of your sugar beets. Preaxor contains headline and a new compound, xemium, that also provides excellent control of powdery mildew. As I said, with the application of BASF's Preaxor 45 to 60 days prior to harvest, you have the potential of higher yields and more sugar content in your sugar beets. Contact your local Ag Chem supplier today or call my dear friend Ron Ellis with BASF at 431-6776 or Tim Perry at 844-0682. BASF's Preaxor for your better sugar beets. We're going to take a little break. Be right back with our next guest. Don't go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
A beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'll tell you, it's going to be nice and warm, but yet comfortable temperatures today. Don't forget Rudder Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley, and they're having their annual tent sale. Yes, they are. For your convenience, the tents are going to be inside the store where it's nice and cool. And believe me, they're going to create a lot of savings for you, the customer. Huge mattress sale going on, many closeouts right now at Rudder Showcase, along where you can save money on Whirlpool, Maytag, and Amana appliances. You better get in there today. 12 months, same as cash on approved credit at Rudder Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley with their big annual tent sale. You stop in and see Guy and the crew today. Well, let's go to the phone line right now. I've been looking forward to this interview with this gentleman, and he is a Cornell Law professor, and his name is William Jacobson. William, good morning and welcome to the program.
Hi, great to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure, sir, and I read your piece about lawlessness is now the dominant theme in the Obama saga, and I have a distinct impression that you and I are going to get along very well because I have nothing but disdain for this administration and what they have done to literally tromp on the Constitution and make or break laws that they don't like. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I think it's been a problem. I think people are waking up to the fact that we've had several years where the administration essentially wants to go it alone. When they don't get their way with Congress, the president announces, I've got a pen and I've got a phone and I'm going to go around Congress. And there's a lot of details to that as to what's happened. But that theme, that notion that a pesky little Congress is something that can't get in the way of a president is the exact opposite of how our constitutional system is set up. I think people are finding that very, very troubling.
William, let me ask you this question. Where is the backbone? Where's the spine? Where's the John Wayne attitude from our House and our Senate? Why aren't some of these guys forming coalitions of power and looking at the president in the eye and saying, no, you're not going to do this?
Well, I think that coalition of power does exist in the House. It's just a question of how much they're willing to exercise it. You saw a little bit of it a year or so ago when there was the issue of funding the government and the misnomered government shutdown, which really wasn't a shutdown. It was more like a slight scale back, but the administration played it to maximum effect by closing public parks and things like that. So it's there. The problem is that the Congress we don't control the Senate to begin with, and second of all, the media is going to portray any of that sort of pushback as, somehow negative and somehow, contrary to the constitutional system, even though that is what the constitutional system provides. So I think that the people in the House, some of them have pushed very hard, others have not pushed very hard. The way the Constitution sets things up, there is this tension, and there's no real mechanism for resolving it, and that's part of the problem, that when you have a president who's willing to go it alone and has a sympathetic media and is willing to simply try to get done what he wants to get done, there really is no mechanism to resolve that other than the voting booth. I mean, if it ever rose to the level of a high crime and misdemeanor, there might be a ground for impeachment, but if it's just a normal political back and forth and a president pushing the limits, the voting booth is the primary way of addressing that, not for the president, but for the party. And the other way of addressing it is some things are subject to judicial scrutiny. And this term particularly has been a disastrous term of the Supreme Court for the Obama administration, whereas the government typically wins about 70% of the cases that get brought to the Supreme Court where the government is a party. This year it was less than 40%, but even more important, there were a couple of very important decisions, some of which went 9-0. In fact, there were 12 9-0 Supreme Court decisions against the Obama administration this term.
Right.
So that's very unusual. So it's not that there's no way of dealing with it. It's that the mechanisms for dealing with it are not quite as speedy as we might like.
Okay, but wait a minute. I want to back up a little bit. Bill, you said something just a minute ago that piqued my interest. Are we now in this United States, and I want to phrase this correctly, are we now at this time period of our United States of America like a Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, to the point where he was so dominant and controlled the media that he could do, say, or get anything done because the media would back him? Is that the effectiveness of journalism in America today?
I don't think we're at Hugo Chavez, Venezuela right now. I think we are in a situation where the media, and this is not new, where the media can have a strongly influencing effect on the electorate and on elections and on how issues are perceived. This is nothing new here. I think in the age of Obama, it is somewhat on steroids. I think that the performance in 2008 was an embarrassment to any serious journalist. So I do think there's a serious situation with media bias, but we don't have state-controlled media. We don't have reporters being beaten up if they publish something that's negative to the government. We don't have people being put in prison. But we have to guard against a tendency of an executive branch to try to manipulate the media. And I saw an interview with the former editor-in-chief of the New York Times. I forget her name right now. I know her name. I'm just forgetting it at the moment. But she was saying that she's never seen a more secretive administration in her career than the Obama administration. The fact that they will use the Justice Department to try to go after news people when it comes to leaks, government leaks. So there is an effort at intimidation, but it's certainly nowhere near the level that it is in Venezuela. And by the way, that editor's name is Jill Abramson.
Right. For a minute, all of a sudden, I went blank myself. But anyway, Bill, let me ask you this. Let's start looking at this thing on a piecemeal basis, starting with Obamacare. Now, when Obamacare was introduced and shoved down the throat of the American public, and the Supreme Court said, yes, it is legal, why then, and pardon my naivete on this, with your expertise, why, after the Supreme Court said it was legal, was Obamacare allowed to be changed at least 23 to 30 times? Why wasn't it null and void after what the Supreme Court had said it was legal?
I think that's one of the big issues, is that having fought that bitter political battle to pass Obamacare, and most people don't realize how many events had to fall in line for that to pass. Ted Stevens was indicted and lost his election the fall before Obamacare was passed, and he was convicted, and the conviction, and that he got replaced by a Democrat, and the conviction ended up getting reversed. Had Ted Stevens never been wrongly convicted, there would be no Obamacare. So there was a whole slew of things that had to happen for Obamacare to barely pass. But once it was passed, it was then challenged, and we had this horrendous Supreme Court decision that found that it was the mandate was constitutional as taxing power. So it passed barely. It survived the Supreme Court barely. And then the Obama administration decided that it was politically damaging, and so that they would push a lot of the painful aspects of it off beyond the 2014 election. And so you have changes to the law that are just done administratively. They just decide, even though the legislation says something is going to come into effect on a certain date, it's right in the legislation, they say we're going to extend it. Or even though the legislation has certain negative tax implications, they say we're going to postpone those for a year or two. But there's nothing in the legislation that says they can do that. So that's the sort of troubling thing, that you have the administration using the normal discretion that the executive branch has, not to better implement the law, but to implement it in a way that's politically advantageous. And that's what's so, I think, dangerous. And that's something that people are frustrated with trying to deal with. But there really isn't a great mechanism for forcing an administration to enforce the law as it's written. And that, of course, would put Republicans in the awkward position of saying, we want you to enforce Obamacare. So it's a very difficult situation, but the important point is it does reflect how willing the administration is to disregard legislation when it's not politically opportune.
All right, when you say politically opportune, we have a classic case that is going on right now, this minute, at our border, if you want to call it a border. It's nothing more than a piece of Swiss cheese as far as I'm concerned. I've been there numerous times. I know what I'm talking about. The illegal alien children coming in from clearly down in South America, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, all these countries, and coming up here, and the government, our government, acting as an arm for them to be put in various places around the United States, some of which may even come here to southern Idaho, at our expense. I mean, my goodness sakes, Bill, we can't absorb these costs. We can't absorb the dangers of the disease factor, the gang factor, etc. Our borders are a mess, and this administration doesn't seem to care about the rule of law.
I think the immigration situation is another good example, just like Obamacare. The Obama administration implemented on its own the so-called Mini-Dream Act. It sent very strong signals that there would be only selective deportation, and essentially if you were here illegally but not committing any other crimes, you would not be deported. There was a whole slew of things they just did administratively that are to not enforce the law. That sent a very strong signal to people, and the signal, which I think was an accurate signal, given this administration, was that if you can somehow make it here, and particularly if you're a younger person, you will get to stay. And that message was heard very loud and clear by people who want to come here. And I don't begrudge people for wanting to come here, but we do have a system of laws. We do have a very high level of legal immigration, so this is not an anti-immigration issue. This is an issue that we essentially have immigration laws that are non-functional because the administration has decided it has certain priorities, and it's going to enforce or not enforce the law depending upon how it feels, and that's not the way it's supposed to be done.
Bill, when we look at the situation today, and I'm appalled when I see some of these man-on-the-street interviews, and they're talking to people probably 18 to 30 in that age bracket, and they can't even name the name of the vice president, they can't even name what's going on in world events. As a Cornell Law professor, you must be very close to this. How concerned are you with the younger generation that just seems they're oblivious to what's going on around the world, and especially here in the United States?
Well, I don't see it directly myself because the types of students we get here tend to be pretty well informed, but I do have a website in addition to my normal one, Legal Insurrection, called College Insurrection, where we monitor press reports about what's going on college campuses, and we're seeing the same sort of videos and other indications that you're seeing, and that there seems to be a pretty widespread ignorance by the students of the political process, how it's supposed to work, and it's really troubling that people just aren't paying attention. But it's not surprising because a lot of what particularly the social sciences and the humanities have turned into in a lot of college campuses are very politically oriented sort of indoctrination, not necessarily studying the history of the Constitution, but more studying quote-unquote social justice, how to be an activist, things like that. And I think that's showing up in the sort of interviews you're talking about.
You know, I want you to explain legal insurrection. You know, when people hear that word insurrection, a lot of the left liberals are running into corners and tearing their hair out, and they're biting their fingernails off, etc. Insurrection, oh, the whole world is going to be doomed. What do you mean by legal insurrection?
Sure. Legal Insurrection is the name of my website, and the way I came up with it, this is not quite 6 years ago, is I was feeling very frustrated about the 2008 election, and the word insurrection, which means a rebellion, came to mind. But insurrection, by definition, is illegal, so I called it legal insurrection. And what I mean by that is that people have to use whatever tools are available to them legally, and I don't mean just in the court system, but whatever lawful means they're able to use to fight back against this encroaching intrusion of government into our lives. And one of those legal tools, obviously, is voting, is to get out the vote and people have been somewhat successful at the local level at taking back state houses, and in the states, the legal insurrection has been quite successful. It's even been successful in the House of Representatives. The 2010 wave election took back the House of Representatives, and that's unlikely to change this year. It didn't take place at the Senate level for a variety of reasons, and it hasn't taken place at the presidential level because it's at those more mass, more macro levels that I think the media can have a bigger influence, and the domination of Democrats in certain key states can have a negative effect. But at the local level, I think it's absolutely possible to fight back legally, and it's possible to elect local officials, and that really accrued to our benefit in a great way, because the 2010 election, which saw Republicans take back a lot of state houses and a lot of state legislatures, then resulted in redistricting of congressional districts, which has been to the advantage of Republicans. Not exclusively to the advantage of Republicans, but for the most part it has been. So by legal insurrection, I mean, in a sense, an alternative might be viewed, you can fight locally to achieve more national and more statewide effects. And there are other ways that you can just structure your own life to insulate yourself to the best you can from the intrusion of government. And that's why I think so many people fought the Obamacare mandate so hard. And we won on the core principles, and then they came up with this tax argument, is that the mandate for the first time really forced you to buy something merely because you exist. I mean, we all know if you want to drive a car, you may have to get your license, and to maintain the car, you may have to carry some level of insurance. But the mandate said if you merely exist, if you do nothing, if you bother nobody, if you're sitting on your hilltop on the top of a mountain someplace, just minding your own business, you still have to buy Obamacare. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, was a really groundbreaking sort of intrusion. And so people have to work with their states and have to work with their local officials to try to combat those things. Common Core would be another example.
Right.
Where essentially the federal government is trying to tell localities what they have to teach. You can reject that. States can reject it. Many states have rejected it. So when I say legal insurrection, there are tools available at multiple levels where people can fight back and not view the situation as hopeless.
One final thought, Bill, and this is a speculative type question, but I think you are in the position to give it a good answer. In general, does America really care anymore about our past, our present, and our future, or have we become so blasé that we just don't care?
Well, I think that what you have is a rewriting of history. You have a rewriting of history of trying to portray everything that has happened in this country as uniquely bad in the world, that apology tours, so to speak. So I think there's some level of caring, but I'm not sure there's any intellectual curiosity to find out if the sort of negativity you hear on television or from the Democratic leadership is true or not. So I think people care, but I think that it requires a level of interest to fight back that perhaps a lot of people don't have.
I want you to come back in the future if you would, sir. I found you very interesting. Clinical professor of law at Cornell Law School and publisher of Legal Insurrection blog, William Jacobson. I say thank you so much for your time, and I hope you'll come back in the future.
I will. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Very, very interesting gentleman. William Jacobson, a law professor at Cornell Law School. And his latest piece, Lawlessness, is now the dominant theme in the Obama saga. How true. Oh, my goodness, time for a weather update. And the weather this hour is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Oh, my goodness, the telephone number, 324-7657. Tri-tips, marinated tri-tips. Oh, they're delicious. And, of course, they guarantee everything they sell. It's delicious. Selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Here now, the lovely Gina Jameson.
Looks like partly cloudy skies for the afternoon. Scattered thunderstorms and showers are possible as well, and some of those thunderstorms may produce gusty winds. Looking at a high of 84 for today. Winds out of the west right between 10 to 20 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies for tonight. Scattered thunderstorms and a slight chance of rain showers in the evening hours. Some thunderstorms may produce gusty winds as well, so be prepared for that. Looking at a low right near 54 and currently sitting at 70 degrees here at KBAR Studios.
There's the great weather forecast, Gina. Thank you. And brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Don Scarrow, the rest of the folks, great folks. Selling taste one bite at a time at Scarro's Meats. Absolutely delicious. While we have just a moment, I want to remind you about your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They have got, of course, the best tire value promise in the industry and free peace of mind tire protection. Whatever the road throws at you, from potholes to nails, your tire is damaged from any road hazard, they will replace it at the value of your tire. You better believe it. Free lifetime tire and mileage care. They've got all the best in tires for your cars, your pickups, your SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, everything you need tires for. They have them at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And, of course, the best in brake service, the best in front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. It's all there with easy credit plans available. So stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Well, I never did ask you, Gina, what did you do this weekend, and did you have fun doing it?
What I did this weekend?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Went down to the old Boy Scout camp called Camp Roach. We hiked down there for a little bit.
Oh.
We were looking for a swimming hole, but we didn't find one.
I see.
And of course, worked on the Bonneville. We're trying to work out some technical issues, some electrical issues. So we pretty much narrowed it down to different parts that I need to buy, but that was pretty much all I did.
Have you ever been, and I'm giving them a free plug because it's absolutely phenomenal. Have you ever been through Shoshone, and when you go through Shoshone, there's a little kind of a restaurant or kind of a snack bar on your right-hand side? As a matter of fact, that's the name of it, called the Snack Bar?
I have not been to the one in Shoshone, but I've been to the one in Wendell.
You've got to go to the one over in Shoshone and go in and order, and do not get the large ice cream cone because you ain't going to lick that ice cream cone fast enough to get her down. I'm telling you, those are the biggest ice cream cones I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, you know I love ice cream.
The other day, we were going through there on our way to Arco, and Deanne, of course, has made it a kind of a personal stop for all of us to stop there and either have a burger or one of those ice cream cones. And I literally had one of the smalls, and I couldn't hardly eat it fast enough to keep up with the melting. How anybody could eat one of those larges? It stands about 12 feet tall. Holy smokes, how in the world you could eat all that ice cream without having to get all over you? It's beyond me.
Answer me this. Do they have the chive fries?
The what?
Chive fries.
I don't know. All I know is that the ice cream is a little bit different. It's much creamier. It's much tastier. And they just keep making, you stand there and watch them make these swirls, and they go higher and higher. And pretty soon you expect King Kong to jump off the top of the ice cream cone.
That's brain freeze on a cone waiting to happen. Have you ever told them to stop? That's enough?
No. I'm not stupid. I love ice cream.
That sounds delicious, and ice cream sounds really, really good right now.
Well, you know, and I'm not giving them a free plug just to give them a free plug, but, I mean, the ice cream cones, honestly, their small is a large everywhere else, and their medium is going to far exceed everything, and how anybody could eat one of their large ice cream cones is, I just can't understand how they can do it.
Well, I think that if they do, then it obviously sounds like they deserve an award or something.
Well, get James in, we'll get into my pickup, and we'll drive over there sometime, and I will treat you to an ice cream cone. You better be lapping pretty fast, because I don't think you're going to finish it. It's great.
I'll do my best.
All right. Hey, tomorrow on the program, we got some really interesting people, including a gentleman that knows all about education, and that's Kyle Olson back in Michigan. And then we're going to talk to a lady by the name of Leah Caraway on how many people are trying to take God out of our society. And, of course, we also have Dr. History and many other folks calling in. So don't miss it tomorrow right here on Zeb at the Ranch. We'll start things off at 8:06, ride the horse for 3 hours, and remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning.